From our first breath, Enemed powers life's journey. Every step of the way. Supporting you through life's milestones. Fueling businesses that drive our economy. And providing the energy that brings families together. We're there when you set sail on your new adventure. And when the plane takes off to connect you to the world. Our commitment to quality and innovation ensures we meet the needs of today, tomorrow, and beyond. Life is a journey, and Enemed is proud to power yours. Wherever life takes you, we will be there.
Good morning and welcome to action that will now kick itself into high gear as we start the karting scene. We are here at what is Malta's tricky triangle to set things off into perspective. Welcome to Reve and welcome to the start of a €5,000 tournament. My name's Jake Sperry. I've got hopefully John Harris alongside with me for the ride. John, a pleasure to have you around. Hopefully we've got you patched in and heard. If not, we'll try and jump you in with a little bit later on. But what a pleasure it is going to be to tackle karting in this way at one of the premier facilities that Malta has to offer. Believe we don't have John patched in, so we will make sure that we'll catch that in a little bit's time as we get ourselves ready. Now, we got the 10 here that have wanted to qualify themselves in to this position. They know they've got 5 races in this season to go out there and battle for what is Malta's biggest prize in the National Sim Racing Championship out there, which is brought to you live on TVM Sport and through World Pro Racing here on YouTube, which is always fun, and our social medias if you're watching out there in the world of Facebook as well. A nationally sanctioned championship by the Malta Motorsports Federation. We start and end this championship over at Reve. We have a double header of Italian tracks with South Garda and Franciacorta that will be coming along to you in September, and round 4 of the championship over in Finland at Mikasalo. That's going to be fun to go and get yourself in on in terms of how schedule then all looks to sit. So they know they don't have to race for a month after this run at Reve, so they've got that all in mind as they want to say, right, this is where our championship now begins. And what a circuit Reve is that builds itself in here on this lovely triangle, the fast aggressive corners that you have here through turn 1 here. It's a 1.3 kilometer long circuit with lots of I would say challenge out there. The run coming out of turn 4 I think is going to be the most important, as you've got that lovely run along the squiggle over to the middle and late sectors, and then those long arcing corners at the end of the lap do offer opportunities to lunge down the inside if you've got enough of the bravery available to say, look, I can go out there and push. It is pretty much built into the area of motorsport that Malta has to offer. You can see the drag strip on the left-hand side that gets a lot of use then over the course of the year. And so it is all about setting yourself up in earnest for what this season now is going to offer. You've got 9 drivers currently entered in, which includes a number running in this, running this kart right now, which is the Birol IAM X30 that is going out there. It's Ayrton Tanat who is on top over Alessandro Vella. You've then got the likes of Cicluna there, Zach Cicluna in 3rd, and ultimately 4th position belonging to Kian Gorchi there in 4th place. You've got 5th currently Benjamin Borg Irimia, and then you've got the 2nd of the Tanars, Eli Tanar, there in 6th. You've got Johannes Camilleri in 7th, and then of course you've got Eli Zverev in that 8th place, still waiting for the likes of Iman Muakat then to put time down on the board as well. But it's going to be an aggressive start to this. Times very close together here, and they're running the IAIM X30, which is lovely. Kian Gorchi currently on top now. There at this point. I do love this IAIM X30 here. It's a fantastic Birol Art frame that gets run. It often goes in conjunction, say, with the RY30s that are out there and giving a lot to go forward. It's a 125cc two-stroke water-cooled touch and go engine out there, so that means it's an electric start engine, and it has a centrifugal clutch to go and work with. It pulls out about 30 brake horsepower, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you consider it's worth maybe only about 150 kilos max in terms of its element, its weight to power ratio is absolutely huge, and so you'll be keeping an eye out on how that is all going to set itself about. They will be keeping an eye out on how they look to push here and say, okay, I want to go and give everything I can to putting myself on the pedestal. Here's a look at Kian Gorchi, Ayrton Senna, then trying to work on in the follow. And really, you've got to try and maximise the lines here. Very much a circuit where it's all about line placement. Look how much you can attack these curves going through the middle sector. Try and get the rotation through, and then say, look, for the final sector, I want to chuck this one in on ceremony. Let's actually take a lap here with Ayrton Senna, because this will be your indication of what this circuit will bring. So we'll go to Alessandro Vella here, working through the middle sector, as we'll get an eye at some of our competitors that are out there, that are pushing, that are looking at this, saying, okay, I think I can go a little bit quicker. But I do want to stay with at least one driver out there. That will give you the opportunity to say, hey, look, this is the run, this is where we're going to go. John, let's now set ourselves into position here. Alessandro Vella looking to attack this Reve circuit, which I'm looking forward to, that tops and tails this season.
Yes, first of all, hello everyone, glad to be here, and it's one of those things, karting, isn't it, that you have to be super aggressive. We're already seeing that on the track, and I love this style of racing. You just have to be, it's like a grassroots motorsport, and it's all about the driver here, and you're seeing that with Alessandro Vella. He's just, well, peeling into the pit lane, actually, commentator's curse right there and then, but the driver's just getting warmed up and just hoping to get absolutely perfect in to put it on pole position.
Yeah, so they know what they've got. They are in the midst of a practice at this moment in time. I'm sure it will be advanced. Zach Skikluna there looking to try and push on through what is the middle into the late sector here, and you really get a sense of how much aggro you need to be offering out there as you go through these final long looping rights and lefts to go and finish off the lap. Let's stay with Zach Skikluna then as we make this push into turn one here, this fast right-hander over the curbs, and then you're immediately along this back run here into turn two. Put the power down off the exit here, work yourself into 3 and then 4. This is the first real chance you've got to put the rotation in, and now you're firing into the middle sector. 5, and now look at this, 6, 7. You see all of the dirt that's been kicked up. Turn 8, and now you're in through the next twisty section. 9, 10, and now you've got to figure out 11, and then into turn 12 here. Long right-hander. 13 brings it back the other way, and 14 gets itself sorted. Only 37.5 seconds, the fastest time we've had, but a PB of a 37.639 for Zach Skikluna. We'll say here, John, that we are going to be seeing not much separation, I think, when we put slipstream into effect.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a case of just trying to get as close as possible into the braking zone, although a lot of fast-flowing corners, so it's all about the switchback. It's all about just not messing up in terms of the oversteer, and there's a driver that nearly went onto the grass right there, so pretty tricky in terms of the racing line, especially with the dirt on the track. You're just going to have to adapt to it every single lap. With the banking, though, on certain corners, just a few degrees of banking, but it does open up the outside line as well. So a track where possibly overtaking may be sort of a medium difficulty, in my opinion. So this is a popcorn race, as they say.
Yeah, so make sure that you get yourself set and ready for what will be some great running that we will be having over the course of this season. And that, of course, you can catch with us here on World Pro Racing. This show is brought to you with our title sponsor here of Gaming Malta. It's supported by Gaming Malta as part of its commitment then to Malta's grassroots esports community. And World Pro Racing, of course, returning for another year and have run the Maltese National Sim Racing Championships every year since 2020. Broadcast live each season, and this year it's €15,000, the prize pool. It is the biggest championships that have been offered, and that is not just across here, the running that we have seen, John, already here in this karting as we focus here with Eli Reve for the moment. It's also about the focus that we have seen in the GT3 and the F4 categories that ran last week.
Yeah, it's kind of the stepping stones, isn't it? You move up from karting into the GT cars, and it's a very different style of driving, which means for broadcasting perspective, you have a lot of variety, and we do love to see that with the racing. Obviously, the GT4s and the GT3, the F4, sorry, very sort of cars that you can race close together. You can use the downforce. There is a little bit, but not excessive amount to make it sort of a one-horse race at the front. So a very interesting category, and of course we have to speak about the talented drivers that we have, because they are all so close together, as you can see on the timing board right now, but across the broadcast that we have, it's just so close, and one mistake can mean that you drop from first place all the way to the back of the pack.
It's so easily done, and we will keep that focus over the course of this season to say, okay, who is improving, maybe who's starting to drop backwards a little bit down at the World Pro Racing Arena here. They're all racing sim rigs next to each other out there, John. So this has very much got that LAN feel to it, that you can turn around and say, I'm unhappy with what's happened. You can look 3 rigs down and go, what did you do that for? So I think this is going to be a case where it's maybe a little bit more different to what we'd see if you're racing from your own home setup, because you're used to that, you're comfy, and part of being quick here is how much time have you actually spent getting yourself accustomed to what you need to be doing here down at the World Pro Racing Arena.
There's a lot of factors that go into it when it's a LAN type event. I have a little bit of experience with that with the WRC esports that I did, and the thing that you have to do is get adapted to the rig. So the brake pedal, the steering, even if you have the same equipment at home, it will feel 1% different, and that 1% is everything when you're competing for hundredths of a second. So getting in, getting well sorted during practice, making sure that you are comfortable with every single thing. Seating position, if just that, is so important for a race. So you need to just make sure that everything is 100%, then you start pushing, then you start getting comfortable. But obviously, with everyone being in the same room, there is always a little bit of a possibility for a small incident.
Yes, and Reve very much folds in on itself time and time again. So it does offer then a sense of, okay, you do have to be aggressive, you do have to go and find those overtakes, and it does make life that little bit more difficult, and so you're having to earn it out there. Now let's talk karting in the sense of why karting is added here to the Sim Racing 3 that we've got, along with the likes here of your GT4 and your GT3 and F4 that you have out there. Because, John, the key, I believe, to understanding karting is it teaches you the base principles of what it takes to be quick.
Exactly. There's no aerodynamics, there's no fancy differentials, there's not even really brake bias changes. You've got to drive the kart by the seat of your pants. It's all about what you feel through the steering wheel and under your body, and that means that you have to drive it aggressively. It's a very oversteery series. You don't want understeer, and from the karting experience that I have, you really have to master stuff like trail braking and getting on the power early. It's all about that exit speed, and it's a different style compared to the upper categories, to GT3, and especially to, well, maybe a bit less to GT3, but F4, it does lean into that as well, where you have to be super aggressive. It teaches the fundamentals and the basics, where if you get it wrong, you will be miles off the pace, and that karting is always balancing on the limit of grip, but because the karts are so light, if you go over it by 1%, you'll just spin around, and so it's all about balancing it on the limit, and if you're a great karting driver, you should have no problem with the upper categories just replicating that and adapting yourself.
Yeah, and you can see there that how narrow that pit lane entry is. We do not expect over the course of racing drivers to be jumping on down that here at Reve, so that will be an element of concern out there if you do have to find yourself down there, but we will be heading ourselves pretty soon over towards qualifying as things will look to set themselves up. So it is a case of your 15,000 euros that is there on the line that does give you a lot to look at. 5,000 going through each category out there, and it's all getting itself underway. They have all had to earn their place through open qualifiers, John. Now they're racing for a share of the pool, and they are looking to try and get everything that they can from it. So they understand now just how important that is going to be, as we are just going to get a word here that we are about to enter qualifying here and get ourselves set up for it, which now means it's going to be a case of best out there is going to be the one who gets up to speed the quickest around Reve.
You have to create an open space for yourself. You really just have to maximize the time that you have with nobody in front of you. Even just someone in your proximity can be distracting, and so Ayrton Tonna getting the laps underway into turn one, blasting it through there. You want to keep a very tight apex onto the curbing, not too much though. You can hit the grass like car number 2 in the background, so a very solid start to the lap here, just trying to get a banker in. That's what you want to do, put pressure on the other drivers. You can see a hint of oversteer there a little bit for Tonna, and it's looking like to be I won't say a mediocre lap, this is looking like a brilliant lap, but just a banker lap, just one to get settled in. Obviously the track will ramp up in terms of pace as well, so a lot of factors to take in here. And on this first qualifying lap, looks like Ayrton Tonna is setting the benchmark.
Yep, so we'll see that crossing the line. What will that be as a first attempt that goes through? Doesn't look like, yes it is, 37.7, so about 2/10 off of what was done earlier on in the practice, as Alessandro Vella goes with a faster 37.7 up to the top of the order. So we'll feel quite comfortable in that fact that has been set up, and they're working through hard with the supporting partners that are available. Moser Racing, Intercom, AMD and GT Omega Racing, the technical partners of Simtech.dev and Arcafor, and our media partners TVM Sport, Motorsport Malta and ESTV. 5,000 then, just the difference at the top of the pointy stage, but that will now change because Alessandro Vella goes quicker, but then he's overtaken by Kian Gorchi, who puts a 37.690 down and says, guess what, I'm top dog.
First to drop into the 37.6 is right there. That's a benchmark and a half. We've seen that in practice, however, so the times will drop, and it's all about getting the confidence up right to the end of qualifying. You want to be at your peak at the end of qualifying, going into the race on peak confidence. So for people that are already in the 37.7s, that's really good. If you're in the 38s, you need to get up, and Ayrton Tonna there setting a new benchmark, a 37.737, so it's really going well for him. And Kian Golchi not improving on that lap, but I think he's just sitting with confidence at the moment. Benjamin there just over the curb a little bit, so that'll cost him a little bit of traction, a little bit of time. And see Luna into the 0.7s as well in P3. So a lot of people still improving their personal best. This is great qualifying here. I love to see it drop by 1,000th by 1,000th.
Yeah, and this is the circuit where you are trying to pry out 1,000th by 1,000th. Can I take this line slightly tighter? Can I carry slightly more speed? Alessandro Vella to the top on a 37.64, and now finds himself with 500ths then to say I am top. Half a tenth. Eli Tanar going. Zach Cicluna, what a time that is, a 37.5 that goes to the top, and by over a tenth of a second, that will feel like a full second on a big souped up minute and a half circuit out there. Zach Cicluna then on top, getting the best of the Birol IAM X30 out there. Eli Zverev currently in 5th on a 38 flat, really trying to chuck it in to each and every corner.
Ayrton Tonna there with a 37.5 as well. It's heating up. This is going to be a grandstand finish for qualifying. There's 5 minutes remaining, and they are already pushing to the limit. Johannes Camilleri really a little bit wide there through the last couple of turns. I'll cost him a little bit still with a 38.7. The benchmark, that was a 39.1. The last one, I think, losing all of that time in the last chicane there. So really tricky when you've done all of that hard work throughout the lap and it's the final couple of turns that just catch you out. You can see how bumpy the curbs are, and obviously no suspension on the go-kart, so anytime you're going over the curb, you are using only the tires to grip, and if they ever get loose, if you ever lose traction, that's pretty much it for you. But for Zach Cicluna, it's still ramping up the lap time, still carrying on with just the ultimate pace, 37.7 there on that lap. So just testing the limits, I think that's what you've got to do in qualifying as well. Find the different lines. Obviously through practice they will still be finding different times and lines, so you've got to be adaptable out there. Maybe the track is not improving anymore.
Maybe not. Johannes Camilleri then really going wide through turn 4, and that really doesn't open it up. And you see the difference why he's down, I think, John, compared to everybody else in terms of time. And the reason will be, I just don't think he's being aggressive enough with the curbs here. You can take this circuit and you can run it close to the white line. You've got to be on the white line or over it, and look at the difference there in terms of cornering speed from the karts directly behind.
Yeah, it's literally the case, just the kart behind getting absolutely, well, swarming Johannes, to be fair. And yeah, I think you're quite right. You have to take the the shortest line really in karting if you can. You've got to clout the curbs and just learn how to deal with the steering. You ideally want quite a strong force feedback just to feel when the kart is gripping up again on the tires, because otherwise you risk spinning out. But it's all about straight lining it, waiting for the grip to come back and then turning aggressively. You don't want understeer, as I said. The front tire scrubbing is the worst kind of driving you can have, and you can see all of the drivers in the top 3 just well clouting over the curbs and just I won't say abusing track limits, but taking it to the utter maximum. You can see it through this chicane specifically, and Cicluna just absolutely nailing it every single lap. The consistency there, 37.7s, that is going to be a mega factor in the race as well.
I think it's going to be huge, and I think we are getting very much set on what is going to be some almighty racing. You've got your top 6 split by 0.3 of a second, and then you have to go back to Eli Tanar on a 38.2 and Camilleri on a 38.7 out there to say these are the differences. Ayrton Tanar really trying to launch it around here, 13 into 14 and back fully on the power and pushing over for the line. I think the tyres have now gone here with about 2:45, but I don't think there's enough time to get 4 new very nice tyres up on there. And the one thing you do have to note about karting is you do have to sort of make do if you're on a budget with tyres that aren't quite optimal. You hear so many stories about the greats that have come up, you know, the Lewis Hamiltons, the Jenson Buttons out there of the world, the Esteban Ocons of, oh, we had to go through karting and we had to pull out tyres out of the bin that other teams basically said weren't good enough and go race on them.
Yeah, and it just increases your adaptability, that does, when you've got tyres and they're sliding and they've got absolutely no grip whatsoever. So paradoxically, it trains you to be a better driver. So obviously they'll be frustrated as drivers that the grip may be fading, but if they can get close to those lap times, they can get that confidence up, as I previously mentioned. And in the race then, when you've got the fresh tyres, you just go from the green, and you can really gain a few places there, whereas if you're just fading a little bit, it can be very tricky from the start. So as you said, it's one of those things that you just have to deal with. You know, karts obey the same laws of physics as everything else, so it's one of those things that you need to learn as a driver. But then again, these pros that have gone through the qualifiers, they'll know everything about the tyres and the kart down to the last percent.
Cicluna pushing for this time over the stripe once again, and this time we'll be looking around another 37.7 that's on the board. You can vote for your driver of the day if you go to wpr.gg/vote/710 and that will be the numbers 710 to make sure that you have your opportunity to vote for who you think the best driver out there is over the course of running. That will close after racing action scores itself complete, but the key being that Zach Skikluna here has an all-important qualifying margin here, and with 45 seconds on the clock here, John, he will have one more attempt up after this one.
Yeah, just saw, I think Vela improved in P3 there. I don't think improved place-wise, but just indicating that the tyres still have something left if you cool them down perhaps a little bit. But for Skikluna, they'll be looking at that leaderboard, hoping, praying that nobody improves right now. So it'll be one of those things where you're just waiting for a timer to count down 20 seconds, so he'll get probably another lap.
Or improvement.
Indeed, Tonna up to P2, and that's only 0.03 of a second away. They've still got another lap in it.
They do, and now we watch here, 5 seconds. Is the time going to keep improving? Skikluna, 37.7, isn't going to find what he wants, and so now as the checkered flag comes out, it's a case of, does anybody have anything left? Zach Skikluna here on tyres that may be going to be one where you say, right, this is close, but is close going to be enough? Chucking it over the curbs here, going through at 7, 8, 9, and now looking to really push for it. Tanaris not going to improve. Then on his final lap, as Skikluna then pushes through 12, over to 13, the long loop back, and finally turn 14. This should be qualifying in the books. It should be okay, and a 5.68 to finish things off there. Absolutely brilliant for qualifying in the first of 2 races here. Ayrton Tanar knows that second is still a good starting position. And what a run we have seen out there in qualifying. Confirmation that Zach Skikluna has taken pole position and did so by doing exactly what was needed. Mark yourself up at the front here, John.
Yeah, I mean, for him, it will have been just waiting for those, 7 minutes after he set his lap and just hoping that nobody stole his pole position there. And it was just ebbing down closer and closer to his lap time. But, I mean, this is just karting quintessential, as they say. And in the race, I can look at the track map and say there's a lot of switchbacks and a lot of places where you're going to have to defend the inside line. So it, as a driver, it sort of goes from the ultimate lap time pace to what line can I take that's safe in defending if I'm at the front, but also quick, so hopefully I can pull away. There's going to be a lot of interesting tactics, I think, during the race.
And we know that lap ones are often the most frantic in karting because everyone feels like they've got a line that's going to work, that's going to give them what they need. So how important is it if you're sitting maybe third in line, fourth in line here, John, to start thinking about prioritising that exit, getting that drive and saying, okay, I know these drivers are going to fight too wide. I want to try and take advantage of that.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You'll have a plan in your head. Obviously, if you're a third or fourth, you'll want to get the best start. You will just want to pull away and just get in front. But if you can't do that, you've kind of just got to react because the karts are so small. Sometimes you can run 3 or even 4 wide. So they just have to, I think, have a plan in their heads to take it sort of easy, and maybe in the first couple of corners and then go for it when they see a gap.
Formation lap then is in effect at the moment, and everybody now has an understanding of what they need to do. Get the tyre operationally working then for temperature and say, this is where I am. Zach Skikluna then will have the control as they will be allowed to take the run as they will now wait for this start and then get themselves the launch that is necessary out there. So he now works for it, and let's get ourselves into play. Bang, big accident. A big hand goes up and already massive kart roll then, and that brings everyone bar 3 practically into position. Ayrton Tanar is caught up and involved in it. A massive, massive accident to start off racing, and that's what happens when you push through turn 1. It practically forces you over where there's not much runoff area on the exit. That looked like an explosion.
Yeah, from what I saw, Skikluna just ran a little bit wide and was a bit compromised on the exit, and everybody just came up to him on the exit of the corner, and it was just ping pong afterwards because everybody was trying to keep it full throttle. That doesn't work when you're all just a crowd on the exit of the corner. And for Skikluna, I think it was a case of just rejoining the track, maybe not going through turn 3, so we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. But for, Tonna and other drivers, they've gone right down to the back of the pack. In fact, Gauci takes the lead of the race then, Kian Gauci, and with a formidable lead as well of about 7/10 of a second, with Camilleri and Tonna in P2 and P3. So that has really changed up the order, hasn't it?
Oh, it absolutely has. And so for Kian Gauci, he's got a gap, and he's got a great gap at that as well, and he'll be looking to master that over Eli Tenart, Johannes Camilleri, who's now dropped back into third, and now it's a case of everyone just trying to find recovery out there at this point. Eli Zverev in fourth, Zach Cicluna then is in fifth place as far as it stands for the moment, but your top three are absolutely where they should be. Camilleri, they're under pressure. There's the look down the inside. Door left open, but it's just enough covered then on that inside. Eli Zverev trying to find a way through, and look at that, a driver who's leaning into the corners, absolutely chucking it through, and actually doing opposite lean rather than what we see. We normally see drivers just tilt their head in. He's absolutely feeling it right now, so he's looking to try and get as much, I would say, body lean away from the car to get more feel that, okay, I'm feeling the G-forces.
He's done real-life karting, because the reason that you do that in real life is to get more weight on the outside tire, so you have more grip. And Camilleri was struggling there with oversteer in every single corner that I saw, and nearly lost P3 because of it. So Zverev really putting on the pressure, piling on the pressure. And so you can see who's done real-life karting in these events, and that is a lovely technique just to get into the feel of it. Sometimes the feel is more important than the actual grip. If you have confidence, you can just go for it. But for Gauci, I think it's just controlling the lead at the moment, and the time's coming down to 37.6, so nearly qualifying times in the race, can you believe?
Yeah, and so this is just an 11-lap race here, and they've all had karting experience before in the various ways that they do it. Eli Tenart here in second position. And that is going to be a case of, okay, he's okay, as we'll continue to push on. Sometimes they're a little bit of a blip, but all well and good for Eli Tenart. And there is Eli Zverev slow, so that to me looks like a bit of a spin that's gone forward here, and it's going to cost at least 3 spots.
Look at Cicluna up to P4 now, so really pushing, really being aggressive, and Tonna's the next on the list right there, and the gap's quite low in terms of the racing, so we'll probably see some side-by-side action very, very soon. But for Gauci, it's just the case of keeping it clean, carrying on, and he's got it easy at the moment because everybody's making mistakes. So it's one of those things when you're a driver, you're out in first place, you've got no pressure on you, and that's the case where you can just pull away and make it look easy. But looking at his lap times, he is just using this race to get more confidence. There's obviously a second race after this, and so you want to be at the tip-top of your game. And looking at those gaps, we have a fight for P2 in just a while. There is Tonna, but there are your chasers as well. You've got Tonna as well in third place, so that's Ayrton Tonna in third place, and Cicluna. The two drivers there in P3 and P4 were the fastest in qualifying, so you have to say that the pressure is on second place at the moment.
Well, put the hunt on at the moment. Say, bro, I am going to chase you down. Cicluna as well, definitely hoping to get back some all-important points, knowing Alessandro Vella's back there in fifth. You've got Camilleri there, now back down into sixth position, and you're just trying to give everything you can. Eli being hounded at this moment in terms of where gap is. Kian Gauci then with a huge margin. I would put that now at about 5 seconds. Our timing tower hasn't updated since the opening lap, but one thing we do know is that Kian Gauci here is absolutely flying. I'd put that more than 5 seconds at the moment. I would say he's about 7-8 seconds down the road, and he is just walking away towards this one. He knows exactly what he's capable of, and he is absolutely flying.
Yeah, it helps to have the real-life experience, as we previously mentioned, and so you'll just be able to calm yourself down. One person that won't be able to calm themselves down, Tonna there, Eli Tonna, battling right now. That is the battle for second place that you can see, and everybody just trying to get in on the mix, trying to see the switchbacks. You can see the line there, just trying to take a wider line, get a better exit. It hasn't worked so far, but for Eli Tonna, he's under pressure and sort of in the sandwich at the moment. That's not the place you want to be in.
No, and now you're seeing Zach Skikluna trying to figure out if he's got a line here to turn one. He doesn't, so he's got to carry the speed here, and he gets the angle he wants. That's wide from Eli Tanar, and so Skikluna inside of turn two picks up the run and picks up third place on the pass, an all-important pass out there to say, look, I am absolutely on it. Skikluna then is just doing exactly what he needs to do, and I think it's been the perfect mentality. Get yourself involved in the lap one instant. Okay, that's not great, but then fight back. Don't just let the race just go the wrong way. Ayrton Tanar there in second. Kian Gorchi, fastest lap now, is absolutely motoring.
37.5 in the race. You have to be kidding me. But for Ayrton Tanar, it's been a great recovery drive as well. Just managing to, carve through the pack as well as Skikluna. So a lot of drivers just demonstrating the pace there and pulling away, you have to say, from Skikluna. So that looks like there will be a battle maybe for P2, but Skikluna's got to get a move on here as we are running out of laps in this race. But for them, it will be a great recovery to the podium, that's for sure. They will have a smile on their face. You know, they look very concentrated at the moment. But for Golchi, it's just pulling it away again and again and again.
And very much doing so as we now enter the final lap here of this first race with Kian Gorchi. Absolutely. Oh, he's off. He's off. What's gone on there? Kian Gorchi is off. And so Ayrton Tanar is going to turn around and realise here that he is going to be in position. So that's going to be huge. I think the race has now found itself in finish. 11 laps is completed. So confirmation of result then. It's going to be a little bit premature this end. But Kian Gorchi has won this race over Ayrton Tanar. And ultimately, third is going the way of Zach Skikluna then as this all finishes out. So what a race then to kick things off. And it all started at the very, very front with just how aggro the drivers were needing to be. Skikluna, Alessandro Vella, and Ayrton Tanar all getting into each other on the opening run. Kian Gorchi given the golden ticket.
Yeah, you know, Jake, I said they'd be cautious. Maybe I'll take that one back. They just all went for it on turn two, and it didn't really pan out for them. But that's what karting is, really. You've got to be aggressive. You don't have many opportunities to get the overtake done. So if you see an opportunity on that one, you have to go for it. And for Golchi, it was a case of the only driver, I think, that just got away with it scot-free, maybe a little bit more cautious, and paid off for them. And they were able to set the fastest laps there on out, to be fair.
And the key would have been as well, how are you going to hold your ground? How are you going to play defensively? Eli Tanar was put in a tough position there in the late stages of that race, knowing that he's got, firstly, older brother looking to try and chase him down, and secondly, Zach Skikluna, who's pretty much on a mission to get back everything he'd lost.
Yeah, for sure. That's the thing, is when you're... It's sort of when you've got a great start and then other drivers coming very quick behind you, possibly the drivers that qualified ahead of you as well. You just have to soak up the pressure. And the problem was, as we saw, just Eli just making a few mistakes, and all it takes in karting is just half a car width wide on one corner. And there you go. Ayrton was up the inside, and so Skikluna followed as well. So I wouldn't say it's a bad drive. They kept it clean, they kept it consistent, but they'll have to find something extra for the second race.
And when you get a race like this that we've had, a big incident that absolutely chops the field out, I think they're looking at that going, okay, turn one is a massive flashpoint on this circuit. How do we now look to avoid, the big one happening so that we can actually be in position to battle out there for a victory in the second race?
I think you had the perfect demonstration of just an unavoidable incident there with Skikluna just getting a little bit wide and having to back off on the grass, and then everybody just piling up behind. You don't normally see an incident like that. So normally it'll just be two or three drivers just hooking a wheel here and there. I think they just have to repeat it and hope for the best, to be honest, because that is what you have to do. You have to try and gain positions. You have to be aggressive. If you aren't aggressive, you will lose 5 positions. So you have everything to lose to be sort of just sitting back and waiting for it to happen. I think maybe some drivers might try a bit of a tighter line there and just try and avoid getting onto the grass, because that's what happened. Everyone went wide a little bit, and perhaps they can find some space on the inside. However, you have to say that if they repeat it, maybe some drivers will do something different and that line doesn't work.
True, but the one thing they also have to note as well is that this race does have live race control with some FIA accredited stewards who are in and looking over on this, John. So I think what you'd be saying and looking at here in terms of this regard, the race is not yet declared as official. The stewards are looking back at that lap 1 incident, looking to see if there is anybody who is at fault for that incident, if there is anything that can be done, any learning points that are there, and whether that will affect the result or not, because they'll be eyeing that in terms of race 2, going, oh, well, if I've got a penalty and it's going to cost me time, then how am I going to gather all of that back for the next race that comes up? And it's going to be aggressive because you've got to be quick and you've got to be switched on in these karting events because you've not got much time to go and prove yourself. And on top of not having much time, you've only got 5 rounds worth of racing. So you're turning around and going, okay, well, I don't actually have long to build my season.
Yeah, first of all, shout out to the stewards because it's not an easy job to do. It's an often thankless job, and you never want to impose a penalty on someone. But yes, as you say, when you've got prize money on the line, it can be really, really tricky to sort of keep your head calm, and you almost have a hot-headed sort of approach to it.
Very much so. So Reve now is looking to set itself up for a second race that comes on forward for it. And it is going to be a sense of, okay, well, what do they have to deal with over the course of this season? Because this would be a circuit that nationally all of these drivers will know. But then they've got these 3 international rounds which are sandwiched in the middle. We've got an Italian double header up near the industrial centre of Milan with South Garda and Frankie Accorta that are sitting each other up and saying, look, round 2 and round 3, they're looking really, really cool. Some drivers then just having a little bit of a wait, browsing social media or whatever it needs to be that the kids do these days. But ultimately, you will also have the opportunity to say, right, you've also got Mika Salo karting, which, believe it or not here, John, is a figure 8.
Indeed, yes. So you've got to adapt to the track layout, and a figure 8 is one of those things that you'd see normally on a rental karting, and so maybe it's a good flashback for drivers to their first times out in karting. Just want to say, look at those setups, the triple screens. It's got everything going for it for immersion, and it's so important in karting to be able to sort of look over your shoulder to see if there's someone next to you. Obviously, no rear view mirrors, so you've got to have your wits about you, and that's how sometimes the collisions can happen. So lovely to see them getting the full rig experience and being able to showcase their skills and also showcase the qualities of a good rig.
Absolutely there. They will have the motor racing steering wheels that are there and available for them to set themselves up with some wonderful work that is put on too, with Gaming Malta being absolutely huge in terms of their running of this to help on out. Gaming Malta, this event is supported by Gaming Malta as part of its commitment to Malta's grassroots esports community, and that is shown there by what you see down in the World Pro Racing arena. And actually, it's to a point here how important these national championships are, John, that just about 3 weeks ago, the Maltese Prime Minister met with VMD Intercom SimSport, who are running then in the GT4, the F4 and GT3 categories, and were presented the VMD Intercom jersey to say, please give us a little bit of support for our racing running.
Yeah, it's lovely to see compared to even 10 years ago where sort of grassroots motorsport was completely forgotten. I love to see sort of the local communities get involved and just finding talent from all 4 corners of the globe is so important, and it's a great way to sort of neutralize the sort of favoritism that we've seen in the past. And we can see with the talent that these drivers have already displayed in the first race, they've got some good careers in front of them. I can say that for sure.
And this is what we're starting to see now, a massive sports expansion here by Malta in terms of what the country is able to do and how it's able to progress further out there into the wider world. I mean, we start talking about the fact that, you know, there's expansions into the lower categories of MotoGP. We're seeing a lot of karting success now starting to be put together. And even if you want to go away from motorsport, you've got the likes of Team Polti Visit Malta, for example, in cycling that is is there at the pro continental level. So the pathways now, compared to what you were looking at 10 years ago for Maltese drivers, Maltese talent, Maltese sports people in the world, is only increasing. And I think that level of what we're seeing, especially from an esports standpoint, is really starting to help.
Yeah, it's amazing to see. The Maltese people have always been, throughout history, sort of an adventurous, a daring population. And so for that to be reflected now in all ventures of sport, and indeed virtual sport, is lovely to see. And it can also help in terms of... you're not necessarily one of the biggest sort of motorsports networks, let's call it. And so that means you have the chance to perform. You don't have all of that pressure, and you can get some real quality drivers up there. And as long as they have the backing, which we're now seeing, then you can have some quality talent for the future. And it's all about investing in the future. Motorsport is a long venture. You don't just succeed through 1 or 2 years. So this is the first sort of stepping stones. And if they carry on like this, they could become a major power, as they say, in the world of motorsports. But as you said, it's great to have teams competing worldwide now, and it's great to see that we might have even more in the future.
And it starts here, really, and that's the key, because what we are seeing now from that pipeline of transition of how we get to see superstars out there and working here, John, is quite often, if you're not out there living and breathing motorsport, you're not going to go out there and improve. And that's why the sim has been so important to the development of drivers, be it that they are looking to get better at their karting, maybe they want to make those steps up into motorsport circles and jump up the motorsport ladder rungs that are there and available. It all starts by basically spending every moment you can being down in a situation where you can go, right, I'm going to look at this and do the best that I can to go as quickly as I can. So that means getting your sim rig out and practicing constantly.
Yes, and also it's a great way to get yourself out there. You know, if you can't go to events, if you don't have the budget to compete in events, you can compete virtually. And there are a lot of sort of talent recruiters now that look at sim racing competitions to find the next level of talent. I can think of 5 drivers that I know personally that have made the step from virtual competitions or one-off events to real-world karting events, or indeed motorsport events like GT4. So it's really, really encouraging to see that not only you can be recognized just for your virtual skills, but also the fact that people are looking, that it is considered now as a viable path, which it wasn't 5 years ago. And that is something brilliant because it enhances competition, which as commentators, we love that. And also for the talent recruiters, it makes their life a little bit easier as well.
And on top of that, you know, we're seeing more and more sim racers making this transition into real-world motorsports. And, you know, just the other day, I looked around and I look at my friend Scott Woodwis, a lovely commentator out there in the scene. He's the commentator for Super Formula at the moment. And he was also commentating for Porsche Brazil out there, as we take a little look at some of the work that's being done here on formation, because they are going to get themselves geared up for another run forward. So Zach Scicluna then will be then from the back of the field. Ayrton Tanar from Alessandro Vella, Kian Gorci, Benjamin Borgarimia, Eli Schwereb, Eli Tanar, Johannes Camilleri, Zach Scicluna is how they look to line up and go forward. But I saw Jeff Giassi make a lovely move. I then looked over and saw the likes then of Emanuele Olivieri doing well. But let's get ourselves ready. Tanar then in that second position. We're going to get back then for race 2 as they will look to gear it up. Let's go then. 11 laps then on the board, and let's get ourselves started. Tanar and Scicluna then give each other the room. There's more contact. Another big hit there in the back. One's going to go absolutely flying around. More contact there. Scicluna really having to fight there, and more carts go off there on the right-hand side. Scicluna will say, I did nothing wrong. I've got the lead and I've got it fair. Alessandro Vella off the road and now at the back.
Yeah, I think that was Ayrton Tonna as well, just involved. Yes, it was indeed, just spinning off there on the infield section with a little bit of contact. That's the type of contact you expect to see, just hooking a wheel between 2 carts. And it's so unfortunate that he's going to have to make a comeback drive once again. But look at that determination in the face. I have no sort of doubt that he'll be able to already hounding right now, and he's down in P5, so that's Iramina in ahead, and so you've just got to sort of keep your face focused as Skikluna in the lead, trying to replicate what Gulci did last race.
Yeah, and he's had his camera move a little bit down so he can see some of the work that he's doing. Look at how much he's having to fight that steering wheel here through the corners there. You can see the force feedback that's there, and it's so important in karting, to, especially on the sim, to feel the force feedback, to feel what's going on underneath you with the bumps, because it actually gives you more information to go quicker.
Yeah, you need to feel that sort of slip point, the point where the force feedback goes light as Skikluna in the 37.7s already. You just have to feel the force feedback will go very heavy into the turn, and then when you start sliding, it'll go light, and that's the point where you need to balance it on. You need to keep it as close to that as possible, because you're at the ultimate slip angle, as they call it. You're at the fastest point for the kart. You're not sliding, and you're keeping the power down. And it's so tricky to do that. You can see most drivers sawing at the wheel just to keep it like that. And for Gulci, it's the case of just trying to get the maximum pace now. We'll see the fastest laps fall, I think, as the two drivers at the front fight to just keep themselves out in the clear.
Kian Gauci then in second. I'd love to see what's going on 5th, 6th and 7th right now. It's busy as Zach Skikluna leads. Look at Johannes Camilleri here, really having to hold back. Eli Zverev and Ayrton Tanar is there. Zverev all over the inside curb, and suddenly that's going to be Tanar then, hoping to try and pick this one up. Zverev then will turn around and see, look, I've lost this place, but fights it back through turn 5. Now they're going to be side by side. Oh, and the room not quite there for Eli, so he has to fall back into rank and file, tries to get that tight line to drive it. Ayrton Tanar looking at the clearance. If he covers the line at 12, he's good, and he's got the line covered at 12, so he's good.
Impressive defense by Zverev there, and yeah, just all out for the defense, but Tanar was ultimately victorious. You could see just the aggression, and that again up the inside. No way! Camilleri just getting absolutely punted out of the way. I didn't exactly see who that was, but just too late on the brakes, too ambitious a move up the inside, and that's how quickly it can go wrong in karting.
Benjamin Bulgarimia then looking for a way up to 3rd. Eli Tanar could be looking at back-to-back 4th places if the move works for Benjamin Borg. He's really trying to get a drive out the final corner. He's got it, but ultimately has to see it back into line, hits a wall of air, forces the wide line and takes that one away. Benjamin Bulgarimia now up onto your podium with a good move, but Eli's not giving this one up. But I look around, Benjamin Bulgarimia, he's got all of the tools there to go for it. And Eli, I think, even in his young age, is starting to prove that he could be, maybe not right now, but a threat later on. And look at him nibble away over at the engine there, that 2-stroke engine.
Just trying to find a little gap just to even nudge the bumper and say, hey, I'm here. Reminder that I want that position from you. But Eli Tanar just, I think, just trying a little bit too hard. You need to open up the opportunity. You have to go for that one big attempt, because a few small attempts don't normally work in karting. You have to make sure that you're alongside. But hey, you've got more opportunities. There's more chances still in this race, even though the laps are ticking down. But this battle for 3rd place is the closest for the moment. And you always want that podium. You always want to be on that step. And for the moment, Benjamin is pulling away a little bit, you have to say.
Yeah, he's starting to get this gap, and I think he's going to be very comfortable with that, as Kian Gauci, 37.6, fastest lap of the race. They're now starting to set themselves up with personal bests here as they are pushing in the final stages. They are down onto lap 9 now here of 11, so they have been absolutely flying, but the gap is still huge out there at the moment here, and this is what we keep our eyes on. The fact that the margin is still there for Zach Skikluna, and he sits back and looks at the margin he's got and says, yeah, I'm still a 2.5 seconds to the good. Eli Tanar will feel quite comfortable in this 4th position, and he might be someone who's picking up big points there. He'll be behind Skikluna and Gauci, but those two are proving that they've got something to settle and set with here with just 2 laps to go.
I think some drivers might have burned out their tyres a little bit, and Ayrton Senna in P8 at the moment was the driver involved in that incident that we previously saw. So, yeah, unfortunate for them. They're now battling for that 7th position.
Eli.
Zverev a little bit wide, and that is the position swapped with Vela, I think that was. So, unfortunate timing there on just losing the rear end of the kart. That's how quickly you can lose momentum, and that is how quickly Vela can gain the position. Very opportunistic driving. Love to see it.
Yeah, and it now means that the last lap has already started. Johannes Camilleri is going to be afforded a 5-second time penalty at the end of this race. He is currently in 7th, so not much that he can do. Well managed. This race has been out there from the front. There's been a lot of fighting to go through in the early stages, but when the gap opened up, it was exactly what was needed. This guy is something special out there, the way that he's conducted himself today at Reve. He's understood the assignment, and he's got it with aplomb. Zach Cicluna to the line, a fist pump as he crosses. He knew he got exactly what he wanted.
Indeed, Kim Gulci will be a little bit frustrated, always shadowing in P2 as Benjamin Borg Irmira gets P3, just hounded all the way to the line by Eli Tonna in P4 with Alessandro Vela, my apologies, in P5. So a lot of drivers very, very close there at the end of the race and setting great lap times. Eli Zverev P6 on the end of that one. Ayrton Tonna getting past Johannes Camilleri for P7.
Yeah, and absolutely getting this race exactly how it needed to be done. That is what we would call setting business out there in this and saying, look, that is what we were all eyeing in terms of role and response. So a lovely, lovely run there of karting. And I'll tell you what, this makes me really excited, John, for what the rest of the season has to offer, because that's on what we would call a very tight, boring of a circuit here. The rest of the circuits coming up, or 3 of the next circuits coming up, a lot more open and a lot more expansive. So more in case of, and point of what we would say the more traditional, I'll draft you on the straight and pass you, and then you'll draft me on the straight and pass me back.
That's the beauty of a championship, to be fair, is different tracks, different challenges, different circumstances, and some drivers will be hoping to go to the next tracks and they'll suit them a little bit more. But to say how much I've enjoyed the racing, I've had a smile on my face the entire way through that race as we get confirmation of the race results there, with Zach Cicluna in P1, Ayrton Tonna P2, and completing the podium. No, hang on a minute. That's not correct. It was Kian Gulci in P2, and it was Benjamin Borg Irmiria in P3. My apologies for that.
So, yeah, that there, just a little bit of an update on us there as far as that one set. But Zach Cicluna then very much picking up the win. Kian Gulci then second. Benjamin Borg Irmiria then taking third over Eli Tonna then in 4th place. But if that sets you out in terms of where an opening round now looks to set you here, I think this is a case of winners and losers then from the opening round. And I think the biggest winner out of this round probably is Kian Gulci. Like, you can say Zach Cicluna was the fastest driver out there for a lot of it. And, you know, Kian Gulci maybe didn't have the qualifying that he necessarily needed. But my did he profiteer off of those races with a first and a second. He will take championship lead heading to South Garda.
Yeah, that's so important to have that racecraft. I think he's just kept his head on his shoulders, and that shows with the championship lead. I will say probably the driver that lost out is Ayrton Tonna, to be fair. Just getting in the wrong place at the wrong time in both races, a little bit on lap 1, and then with that move that was a little bit too late, I think, perhaps, midway through race 2. So things to work on. But then again, they're pro karting drivers. They've got quite a bit of experience, so I'm sure they can rectify that for the subsequent races.
I look around as well, as that's going to be huge, and we'll be keeping a close eye on what that is all going to be as we add on. We're going to step aside for one moment, though, here with your action with us and World Pro Racing and your Maltese National Karting Championships, your Sim Racing Karting Championships. We'll be back with more after this.
From our first breath, Enemed powers life's journey. Every step of the way. Supporting you through life's milestones. Fueling businesses that drive our economy. And providing the energy that brings families together. We're there when you set sail on your new adventure. And when the plane takes off to connect you to the world. Our commitment to quality and innovation ensures we meet the needs of today, tomorrow, and beyond. Life is a journey, and Enemed is proud to power yours. Wherever life takes you, we will be there.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here to World Pro Racing's coverage here of the Malta National Sim Racing Championships for 2026. This is your karting that we have been seeing over the course of today. I'm Jake Sperry, that's John Harris, alongside with me for today's action. Now, John, as far as we now set, this has been a wonderful day. We have had the word that all drivers have been called into a meeting with race control, which means... well, more than somebody has been a naughty boy, basically.
It's basically just a call to order. I think, first races of the season, you want to set the standard for the subsequent events. And I think, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. The track means that you're always going to have a little bit of a collision, possibly. But I think just unfortunate circumstances today with a few drivers getting a little bit too aggressive. So, it's just a way for race control to just say, look, there's standards here. You just need to be maybe a little bit more cautious in the opening phases of the race. And I'm sure, it's one of those learning phases for the drivers since they're still in karting.
Absolutely. It's all about this learning phase as this event is supported by Gaming Malta as part of its commitment to Malta's grassroots esports community. And returning to the other side of things, World Pro Racing has been running the Maltese National Sim Racing Championships every year since 2020. The broadcast is live each season, and this year, €15,000 is the prize pool, and it's the biggest the championship has ever offered. It is the biggest prize in Maltese sim racing. It's €5,000 per category out there of the 3 national sim racing championships for GT3, for Formula 4, and then still for karting. Now, we are getting a word and aware that it's more than just 2 races, it's 3 races that we are all sitting on, so they get one more chance then to say, look, we can go out there and push. 30 drivers have earned their place through open qualifiers through each category. They're racing for that share of €15,000 prize pool, and so this is round 1 of the championship over here, broadcasting live on TVM Sport Plus and World Pro Racing social channels, and sanctioned by the Malta Motorsports Federation. Is brought to you by Gaming Malta and also the supporting partners Motor Racing, Intercom, AMD and GT Omega Racing, the technical partners of Simtech.dev and Arcafort, and our media partners TVM Sport, Motorsport Malta and ESTV. They're all there and together for it. So, one more race. They've had 2 very, very aggressive races that have opened out massively. Now is the chance where they've got to turn around and say, look, we've got to calm it down. We know if we go, side by side, door to door, there is a little bit of rub, there is a little bit of lean. But also there is a case that you could hook a panel with someone else, and that's the last thing you want.
Yeah, I think race 2 already showed signs of improvement in terms of the racecraft. People just getting used to racing each other in the virtual sense, because you don't have that sort of depth of view that you have in real life. So you've got to just estimate where you are compared to people a little bit more. And so the estimations were a little bit off in race 1. They were slightly less off in race 2. Race 3, I hope that they will be well on point, as they say. So as you said, it's just a case of just hooking a wheel together, especially as we saw in lap 1. And I think they'll it's just unfortunate that turn 1, turn 2, sort of that long sweeping right-hander, it has the curbs on the inside, and I think what's happening is drivers getting sort of hooked on that curb and bumped wide, which causes a domino effect down the pack. So it'll be interesting to see how they adapt to it. Race control will clamp down, as they say. I can tell you that much if there are more incidents.
Yeah, it's a case that you end up having a case of the Diana Ross effect out there. You get caught in the middle of a chain reaction, and there's not really much you can do from that point onwards. So that's what they're all sort of eyeing up and setting as they understand what this circuit brings to the table, how much they have to push about here at Reve and really give each other a little bit of pressure. And there is that understanding, that pressure that is out there, John, of wanting to assert yourself on the championship from the get-go.
Yeah, for sure. You want to steal a lead, you want to put pressure on other drivers with only 5 rounds. Obviously, it's multiple races per round, but you really want to get a bit of a lead and just make sure that you can be calm. Make sure that you don't always have to go for first place. And so as we can look at the track map there, it's a lot of switchbacks. As you can see right now, there's a lot of opportunities to get an overtake, a lot of opportunities to get a heavy braking, especially down into turn 1, down into turn 2 there. And so that's where we're seeing the incidents happen, because because you can see there's curbs on the inside. It tightens a little bit on the sort of exit of the apex, so you get a sort of a crescendo effect in terms of the contact that you might be having. So it's a very technical track, as we've said before, and it's one that will suit some drivers, not suit others, so it'll be interesting to see who can get really close to that 100% in race 3.
And you start setting yourself up and saying, okay, turn 1, turn 2, turn 4, they're the great places. You've got turn 8 down at the bottom right corner of it, and then over to turn 12 should then set as far as they go. The final places you can pass out here on this track. But they are now looking to set up for this third race. We are getting the word that's about 5 minutes away, so there is going to be a lot of opportunity to go out there to really push hard for it, and I think they are chomping at the bit. They've had a bit of a break. They've had a bit of a briefing to say, look, we don't want race 3 to go the same way as races 1 and 2, but there is also that sense of you're not going to get any more chances after tonight for about a month to go and improve your score. So this is effectively a case for August of the last chance saloon before they're jumping back in the middle of September.
And it's also important because this track will be once again on the calendar at the end of the season. So if you can perfect the racecraft, if you can perfect everything about this track, then when you come back to it, you'll have a bit more of an opportunity. But for sure, you want to end this final race with, if race 1 and race 2 haven't gone well, you want to end this third race with positivity, with something to go on that one month break and say, I did that at least a little bit correctly. So yeah, there's a lot of mental sort of psychological games in effect, that's for sure.
And we talk about this being effectively Malta's version of a karting tricky triangle out there. It's all built into this patch of land that is a triangle base. It's sandwiched in by the drag strip on the left-hand side, by a little bit more housing development on the right. And so you're starting to think, oh, okay, this is crammed in. It's going to be very tight. It feels very nippy, punchy. It's a gritty style of circuit, is Reve. It forces you to be elbows out, and I think the nature of the circuit itself has maybe lent into the style of racing that we have seen at the beginning of this, because everyone feels, right, we're a bit hemmed in here. There's not really many places to get run off. We're very much going to be as aggro as possible to get our elbows out and to give ourselves room.
Yeah, it's a very old school track, as you say, and that adds two things to the mix as well. Tyre wear is very aggressive on the tyres. There's no real sort of way to let off and conserve the tyres for the end of the race. We have seen the times drop off toward the end of race 1 and race 2, but also in terms of momentum, just in terms of setting up an overtake, this is a track where you have to start setting up a few corners earlier and go for the move decisively. If you lose the momentum, if you go for an overtake at the wrong opportunity, you have to wait another lap, maybe 2, to get it done. So it's all about being a mindful driver, being sort of respectful to your opponents, but not too much, obviously. You've got to make that move stick. But in terms of defending, it's an absolute nightmare, as we've seen before.
And let's talk about drivers, say, for example, like Ayrton Senna, like Alessandro Vella. Those two turn around and go, we have had not the best run tonight, and we are desperately looking to claw back points, because they have the ability to go out there and win this championship. But if you're making mistakes now, you're on the back foot, and you've got to really work hard, because you know that it's a 15-race championship, and you're already down to 12 by the end of tonight.
Yeah, I think ironically the race sort of briefing after race 2 might have done some harm to some drivers. Obviously, it's great that they've done the briefing. I don't mean it's in that way. But if you're a driver that's had a little bit of problems, then you can take that as oh, I've got to be cautious, and then you lose out even more. As a driver that has maybe won a race or been on the podium, you take the race control of, okay, maybe we've been a little bit silly, but I've had the pace, so you take that as a vote of confidence. So you kind of have to reset as a driver after a briefing like that and go, okay, things have happened, we've just got to go at it again and prove that we can do this properly. So it'll be interesting to see which drivers have taken positivity out of it, which drivers have taken maybe a little bit of negativity. I'm sure there'll be a mix of both in there.
And let's add a little bit more tension to this, John, because we're going to be adding an extra 8 laps then to this race. And what is a 10-lap race, which is marked as 11 due to formation lap. This is an 18-lap race coming up, 19 marked due to the formation lap. So you'd be turning around and saying, okay, this is what we've got. We've got extra time to make the moves, and that extra time should lean into a more measured race.
More measured race because of the tyres, mainly. If you burn up the tyres, as we saw in qualifying, those lap times dropped by a good 3 or 4 tenths toward the end. We were going into the 38s at the end of qualifying. So you've just got to stay measured. You've got to sort of, if you're fighting, you may actually have to back off for a couple of laps just to save and conserve the kart a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see who gets off to a good start. But it also means with more laps that you have more chance of a recovery if an incident does happen. So it'll be very interesting, and it's a measure of which driver can keep a cool, calm head, because if you're out in front, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will make a faultless race.
Exactly. You've got opportunities to go and claw that time back by being a little bit more on the mark, being able to carry lines that are slightly quicker, being more aggressive in terms of the turn into the corners. But you do have to balance that with, okay, how quick am I over one lap compared to how quick am I over full race pace? And I think that's going to be the mark of why these third races are going to be more important over the course of this season than we see from a race 1 or a race 2, for example. This is going to be pretty much set yourself nailed on song and give yourself everything that you possibly can to go, yeah, I need absolutely everything to come along. And, you know, they're playing with a kart that's got 30 brake horsepower out there from a 125cc cylinder engine, John. It's something that you turn around and go, you've only got 30 brake horsepower. How's that going to make any difference, sort of, how you run? You've got to remember, these karts are uber light, and so your power to weight ratio is something insane.
Yeah, if you've never experienced one of these karts, you can indeed spin tyres, and you can indeed spin all the way round, as I experienced. So it's very tricky. It's a very lightweight kart, so it means that if you're too abrupt on the steering wheel, you can just go out of bounds, as they say. So it's one of those things where your driving has to be so precise. We've seen it with drivers sawing at the wheel. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see whether they adapt even more their style to it.
And we're on formation at the moment with the likes of Kian Gorchi as your leader, Eli Tanar, Alessandro Vella. They're all there. They're all looking to prove that they have what it takes to be right up at the top, making everything work, and understanding that this third race is going to be about managing your way forward. That aggressive turn 1, they will have been warned about the difficulties of being in a 2-wide scenario here, as they'll set themselves up through the flat, get themselves ready then for this start. Final race then, 18 laps at Reve. Starts now and they'll chuck it in. Kian Gorchi then will be happy to clue there. Oh, one spins and one goes wide in the back. And so that creates the drama, but at the front, it's nice and clean. Top 4 all there together. Kian Gorchi holding his mark down at the lead, but here comes the look then to the outside. I believe that's Zach Cicluna pushing to try and find a way through. Not finding it. Kian Gorchi happy with his start.
Gorchi has absolutely no facial expression, just 100% concentrated, trying to maintain this lead. It's so important on lap 1. But Cicluna just so aggressive on the curb, so aggressive on the turn-in, just looking for any opportunity, practically pushing Kian round these final turns of the lap as we go on to lap 2 of the race. Look at this alongside. It will be a drag race right up to turn 1, but no, Kian closes the door, slams the door shut, still maintaining the lead. This is going to be the grandstand race that we wanted. All fight for third place there. Zwerb and Tonna fighting as well. I think Zwerb just got round the outsides there. So a change of position. Oh, Cicluna, what a switch back.
What a move there. Zach Cicluna was not going to sit by, waited for turn 4 to come along and said, yeah, absolutely, I'll take that and I'll take that and then some here. Through 11 into 12 then, Zach Cicluna is going to be absolutely trying to just push his way away here in this race, and now look to build margin with Gorchi down into second position. Eli Zwereb still holding on to that third. There's Benjamin Borgarimia in 4th place, as 5th just behind him, Ayrton Tanar.
There's a lot of drivers in this one that could win this race, and they're all close together as well. What a switchback move that I've seen. I've still got a smile on my face, and I'm sure that Cicluna will have a smile there as well. So Tonna just absolutely pushing Irimia around the course at the moment, getting to the last sector of the lap here. Oh, to the inside, left the door wide open, did Benjamin, and that is Ayrton Tanar up the inside, up into P4. I think that will be incredible moves as Scicluna, carries on in first position. A little bit of a gap increasing now as Golchi tries to go with him, but Zverev losing a bit of pace as well. I think drivers settling into a pace at the moment, just judging how they are compared to other drivers, maybe conserving the tyres a little bit for a push toward the mid-time of the race.
Yeah, and we were seeing mid 37s, basically, mid to late 37s, as Alessandro Vella's bottled up back in 8th place with the likes of Johannes Camilleri and Eli Tannat, who are there in front. And we saw drivers in the 38s, for example. We're only just now seeing them jump into the 37s, so I think they are taking a slightly easier approach of things as they go. Here is Eli Tannat in 7th in the sandwich. He'll be not focusing, I would say, on the kart behind. He is definitely thinking about Camilleri. How do I unlock this overtake? They all run wide. That's a little bit of oversteer on the exit, and that forces the slower line through turn 5. Suddenly it's defensive.
Yeah, so Alessandro Vera had to, oh, here we go, an opportunity to turn up the inside. No, just lifted off there, recognising that there was no space there. Camilleri was always going to slam the door shut on that one. But this is the problem. They're battling right now for P6, and all of the rest of the drivers are just clearing off. Turn up the inside. Can he get the move done right now? Yes. Oh, contact! Contact there, both of them recovering it, but that was just a case of misreading, I think, from both drivers. Tonnat was well up the inside there, and I think Camilleri just didn't notice there, just slamming into the side, and it will be a 5-second penalty for Benjamin Borg-Irimia, so that is unfortunate for a driver in 5th place right now. He'll have to find some moves past the drivers to get that 5-second gap.
Well, he's got a gap. It's almost 5 seconds at the moment, but he will know that he's got a little bit more work to do. Eli Zverev right now, understanding what he's got available to him in 3rd, having to defend. The top 2 are clear in Gorci and Scicluna, who have both been the A and A1 drivers of this field. There is Johannes Camilleri down at the back of the field here, already on lap 7 here of the 19 that we have available to, lap 8 of the 19, lap 7 of 18 that we have available. Alessandro Vella back in 7th, realising how tough today is. Now Zach Scicluna just continues to put the pressure on, going faster and faster and faster, and I wonder here if Gorci is just measuring his effort, because at the end of race 2 he was starting to put those fastest laps down, and I think he's better in the long run. I think he looks after those tyres better.
Yeah, you can see just a little bit of emotion now for Golchi, just thinking and sort of contemplating what he can do in this race. Avoiding the curbs, this is very interesting, so I think you're right, Jake. Just conserving those tyres a little bit, just putting the pressure on. To be fair, he's the chasing driver. It's always for Scicluna to sort of think about when they're going to make the overtake. I think Zach is trying to create a little bit of a gap right now, pushing. The gap is definitely increasing. So for Kian, that lap is not the ideal lap. Yes, in fact, 0.3 of a second on that lap according to the timing. So that is a statement of intent from Zach, just trying to pull away. Meanwhile, Zwerb and P3 getting dropped a little bit there in the 38s, to be fair. So Ayrton Tonna closing in at this stage of the race, and there's a mistake a little bit, and that's Ayrton Tonna right up the inside. Thank you very much. A mistake there from Zverev, and it's going to be a costly one that loses out on a podium position for the moment.
Well, for the moment's the key, because he's looking to really take line. He'll be forced to the outside here of turn 12 as Eli trying to go for this, and he can't quite find the angle that he wants to chuck it in, so he'll have to stay in line. Benjamin Borgarimia, remember, he's got 5 seconds, so he's not as much of a worry or a concern as Kian Gorci, a 37.557. Took 200ths with that fastest lap. Ayrton Tonna into 3rd position then, and looking to try and just run with everything that he's got available to him. The chase still, though, very much on here as Eli Zverev and Benjamin Borgarimia look at ways to get at least on track onto podium still.
Yeah, need to increase the pace a little bit. Ayrton Tonna needs to just get some laps in. You can see the gap increasing a little bit as well. Just a little bit of a twitch of oversteer going into that final chicane. So Eli needs to just control that kart a little bit. Maybe the tyres complaining. And here you see Zach Scicluna getting closed in at the moment by Kian Golchi. So this might be a race for P1. Definitely in terms of consistency, I think Kian has a little bit in terms of the overall pace. Zach has just that 10th of a second in hand. You can see the kart there just sawing at the wheel, Eli Tonna. So not going well. And I think a little bit of a mistake every single lap here, because the lap times are not coming for him at the moment.
Well, they're about to go on to lap 13 here of the 19 available to them, and Benjamin Borgaremia is absolutely all over it as Johannes Camilleri gets also 5 seconds worth of time penalty, even though he was the one that got bounced out there on his instant on lap 6. Chucks it in through turn 2. A lot of grass being kicked up there on the line by Eli Schwerer, who's having to drive pretty much to the extremity limits of the circuit to go and get anything that he possibly can out of it here. He's really having to do a lot of work here, John, just to keep the patience.
Yeah, Eli is doing a good defensive job at the moment in P4, and it's, I think, kind of just a frustrating thing for Benjamin. He's just pushing him around most of the tighter sections of the course. I think just the confidence on the rotation is not there at the moment. Will Benjamin go for a move? Just eyeing it up a little bit. Obviously, no rear view mirror, so you can't really turn your heads to see what's going on unless the driver's alongside. And you can see there just a hair's width between the two karts right there. This is great racing, great defensive driving from Eli, it must be said, but Benjamin looking like the quicker driver overall. This is great news for Ayrton Tonard, just pulling away at the moment.
But what he won't know here, Benjamin Borgaremia, is whether there's a penalty or not that's available. A lovely look at the static cam, watching here just how aggressive they have to be when they're out there at this moment. Kian Gorchi just closing and closing and closing, giving Zach Skikluna something to think about here. And this is what we were talking about. Kian gets the kart to go and jump alive. That X30 just jumps up every time he gets closer and closer, and he's just managing this absolutely perfectly here. Skikluna is now going to have to go over to his closet and get his best blocking boots on.
Yeah, this is going to... Oh, here we go. Benjamin, a little bit of a tap. Eli getting there to get spun round, but they both managed to collect it. And that is still line astern. That could have gone so much worse, to be fair. And a new fastest lap. Did I just see that? A 37.4. Amazing scenes from the top two drivers in the 37.4s. That is incredible racing. And look at them right there. You could see them just on camera, just battling it out for first place. But Benjamin still trying to get past, still in that P5, still frustrated.
We're on lap 16. We're about to start lap 17 of 19. They'll have 3 laps to go to figure this out here. Skikluna and Gorchi both tie the fastest lap mark at the moment on a 37.481. So that is something magnificent. Gorchi again closes in. He's close, but for the moment, Zach Skikluna has about a 1 kart's length that is giving him the defensive pact that he is looking for, John.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the driving styles. I'm just noticing Zach very much sawing at the wheel, whereas Kian just rotating a little bit, just in sort of a normal karting driving style. So interesting to see that 2 driving styles can set the same fastest lap. And it's going to be a grandstand finish. You've not got many laps left to make a move now for Kian, so every single corner has to be an opportunity.
2 to go here on the bottom, Zach Skikluna on the top. You take a look over and say, right, this is what it's going to have to be. Charging through for, at the moment, Kian Gorchi, who wants to find his way to make this pass. He's got traffic in front in the form of Johannes Camilleri. Alessandro Vella under investigation for an unsafe rejoin. So keep an eye on that as well as they look to set. Through turn 12 now, they will go. Zach, you got 1 lap left and you got to just hold your marks. Traffic there in front could play the key factor here for the final stages, even if it means a little bit more toe is being grabbed along this run from turn 1 over to turn 2. Skikluna there, eyes wide, looking to try and just get through each and every single corner, just looking to hit those marks. Kian Gorchi has got to the back, but they say the old adage is this: catching is one thing in this race, passing is another. Alessandro Vella will get 5 seconds worth of time penalty. They head through 9, 10, 11 here now, the right, turn 12, and this is just a case of 2 corners. Hold your nerve. Zach Skikluna is going to be at the double and is going to get it again. That's what it means here at Reve.
You can see the relief on his face after crossing the finish line. Incredible, incredible scenes. And for Kian Gorchi, it's going to be one of those frustrating races where you had the pace, but no way through. But then again, looking at the points, I think he'll be well satisfied with this race weekend, that's for sure. So, yeah, well done, Zach. And I think it will be Ayrton Tonna on the podium as well in P3. So, bit of a lonely race for him, to be fair. But, you know, you've got to pull the points in, and that is a great way of doing it on the podium.
Yeah, it's what the doctor ordered here. Nothing flash, nothing fancy. Just get the job done and score the points. Benjamin Borgarimia did get through on Eli Zverev at the end, but of course the 5-second penalty means Zverev will still finish in 4th. And there's a little look then at just what a strong run it is going to have to be. Zach Skikluna has got the job done. And there will be a huge smile on his face knowing that he's got 2 victories now. And he is just, again, continually just putting notches in to say, this is what I'm about and I can challenge out there at every single race.
Yeah, I just wanted to shout out as well how immersive that simulator setup is. They've got that set up to perfection. Look at that. You can see the tires, just so you can clip the curbs. You can see right next to you as well, if you've got an opponent that you need to challenge, that you need to just hug to the inside to prevent them from overtaking. That must be an insane experience for the drivers. And I must say that during practice, they must have had a huge smile on their faces. And yeah, just absolute, I'd say, world-class driving from the drivers in that race. We saw a few, made incidents with just wheels locking between each other. But I will say the racing in that one, they respected the race controls directives to a T.
They did, and they did such a wonderful job out there to just say, look, we're going to have everything we can to just have an old-fashioned, good, strong karting race. And that was the key, really. There wasn't really a moment there, John, where you turn around and say, look, there was, trouble and strife out there in the race. There was a couple of isolated incidents, but the key was the front of the field worked like the front of the field and had the ability to go out there and just go and race properly and cleanly and effectively. And that was just a case of, do I have enough to get close enough to go and send a move? And the answer at the end of the race was, well, no, I don't.
Yeah, I think it's race 3 was an indication of the pace that we'd seen in race 1 and race 2. We knew that they had the opportunity to race cleanly and indeed to race for P1. They did that exactly. We had huge battles for P1, we had battles for P3 and battles for P5. I mean, can you wish for anything more than that? I don't think so in a race of 18 laps. That had everything in it. And definitely for podium sitters, that will be a huge vote of confidence. And as we said before the race, going into the break that we have of about a month between race, weekend 1 and weekend 2, they'll take all of that confidence with them.
And let's talk South Garda then for a moment and what that offers as a circuit. It's a lot quicker than Reve. Reve is very much, you're putting full opposite lock in. You look around at a circuit like South Garda and it's very much more open, more expansive, more naturally flowing corners. So the ability to keep right foot on the floor comes even more a premium around a circuit like South Garda.
It'll be interesting to see how the driving styles compare, because Zach's very much more of a rotation, sort of like flicking the steering wheel, whereas Kian, I noticed, was very smooth rotating into the corner. And so on a high-speed track, you want to keep the grip consistent, so maybe Kian will have a little bit more of an advantage on that one. But that's the fascinating thing about karting, is that you can adapt, you can learn techniques, and you can really apply that to every single racetrack. And you will see the speed difference, you will know whether it works or not right from the first couple of laps.
Yeah, and that's the key here. How do they adapt and how do they give themselves every opportunity that they can? As we take a little glance down then the arena, see where everybody is, and walking around saying, look, I'll get a bottle of water. That was a whole heap of fun in terms of what effort and intensity I've been able to put together on the board is. And there ultimately, I think you just get the sense of, okay, they have chucked absolutely everything that they can at it and saying, look, it sticks for me. I've had a really strong go of things, and I know that next time out we're going to be saying, look, South Garda is going to be exactly where, we are looking to try and put the points together. So I would be saying, right, that's where I'm looking at. I'm looking at South Garda. I'm looking at Franciacorta. I'm wanting to put this together, as well as the fact that what we've got coming up as well, we're not going to be back until September 5th for any form of racing action of the Maltese National Sim Racing Championships, because, John, we will have F4 and GT3 action coming over, also in Italy, this time from the legendary Imola circuit.
Oh, that's going to be amazing, isn't it? Two car classes that I think produce some of the best racing that you could ever see, just with the sort of mid downforce, especially the F4 and lower downforce of GT4. You can definitely just apply all of the side-by-side action there, as you can see the calendar there on your screen. So that is going to be one to watch, isn't it?
It will do, because you got Imola, then you got the Red Bull Ring on the 19th of September, and then on October 3rd, we will head stateside for Watkins Glen in terms of what will be battling there. And those that half an hour race will be critical for how they set up GT3 running and saying, look, this is what we've got. They will also be keeping an eye out on F4, which runs the same schedule, but they run on a base of 2 15-minute races to try and put that together. You have to be very aggressive in those, and they absolutely draw every little element of that they possibly can to say, look, we are going to be pushing at an absolutely strong level to go, okay, I think I am all for it. I think I can go and be pretty much top dog when it comes to it. But Imola, probably the only circuit out there that says, look, you're going to have to be tight and consistent, because it's sprint circuits, draft circuit, and then maybe a hybrid, you could say, in Silverstone.
Yeah, that's the thing, is it's going to be really sort of adapting to it. And obviously you've got the different driving styles. GT3 is a very heavy chassis, sort of mid-downforce, I'd say. So you're using a lot of mechanical grip. So at circuits like Red Bull Ring, Watkins Glen especially, you're just going to be holding on for dear life through the fast corners. But when you've got the lightweight chassis of the F4 car, you can really just launch it into the corners around Silverstone, Watkins Glen, and have the ultimate speed through there. So it'll be interesting to see how drivers adapt to that, but it does mean that you will see some spectacular scenes around those tracks in these cars.
Yeah, so they are setting themselves out and saying, look, we've still got a little bit of counting to go here to make sure that the result is then put together on the board with how everyone is looking around at it, the points that are going to be scored here, the way that everyone is turning around and looking at the penalties that are available. So there is still that sense of there is going to be differences out there, but as far as I am looking here for it, I'm going to be very much excited to see what they can do coming up. So they can see the lovely look of South Garda and what offers there at a circuit that is maybe a lot smoother in terms of how you rotate through the corners. It's not as sharp, it's not as shallow as maybe what we've seen at Reve. You'll have Francia-Corta coming up, Mika Salo karting as well. There is Francia-Corta, and that is often a circuit out there that in the karting scene often gets a name of reverie, Francia-Corta.
Yes, for sure. You've got Miko Salad karting round 4. Again, a lot of tracks with a lot of switchbacks and opportunities to set up the maneuvers like we've seen in this race 3 that we've just had. So really, really interesting. And back to the Reve karting once again. So it'll be really, really interesting to see how the drivers adapt to that.
Absolutely. This all brought to you courtesy of AC Karting here, and that has been absolutely amazing to get this karting scene up there and going, having that opportunity to get these dedicated karting circuits out there and into sim. You don't often get to see too much. AC Karting are the creators of the karts, and you have the opportunity, if you want to give them a little bit of love on their Patreon so they can continue to create some amazing, amazing karts out there to go and run, like the Birrell X30 then, as part of the IAIM series of karts that go out there and put some really, really wonderful running out there together in the international scene out there. And so much so that, you know, every time, I know my good friend Alex Goldschmidt, he has got an IM karting series pretty much every single week. He is somewhere doing some form of karting out there. And overall, John, an absolute treat's worth of running here that we have had. What do you think the big takeaway for the drivers is going to be coming out of this, as we also will be just touching in a moment on that fan vote that's coming through that you still have, I believe, a chance to say will be completed, and we will get to say who is your driver of the day?
It'll be interesting to see, because I'm noticing a tendency here of some drivers just being faster overall, but some drivers having consistency. We've talked about it before. You've got Zach Scicluna in P1 in terms of pace, but Kian Golchi definitely has the consistency. So will we see that over the season, where some drivers like Ayrton Tona can get some wins on the boards, can get some big points? And for the championship, will it be the case of perhaps just trying to play it clean and consistent, get some P2s, P3s on the board? Be interesting to see on the points, because it kind of shapes up how you approach the championship. If after round one you see, oh, maybe the consistent way is the way to go, then you adapt, and you sort of adapt your driving style to that, adapt your race strategy to that.
We do have results that have gone official then, so we can confirm that Zach Scicluna has now won this third race of 15 over the course of this season, with Kian Gorchi second and Ayrton Tanar then being in that third place. So we do have that sense of where result has now looked to put itself forward. And I think, John, we turn around and say Zach is the one who I think is the benchmark here in terms of just pure outright pace.
Yeah, it makes things a lot easier when you have about a tenth of a gap in terms of pace on everyone else. You can just be a little bit cautious sometimes between some corners where you're struggling a little bit, or where the kart's struggling. So it just gives you opportunities, and opportunities is what you need in karting, just to open up the strategies a bit, open up the consistency. So yeah, he's demonstrated that he's the front runner. Will anybody be able to challenge that on a different track? I think so, but we'll have to wait and see, that's for sure.
We will, and so that now puts the gauntlet down to everyone else to now say, look, can we jump up? Can we be aggressive? Can we find these positions? And can we take the points back that we've seeded away in the early stages? And so often we talk about championships being, dominated from the front. You know, we talk about sim racing being arguably the great equalizer. There's no difference in terms of what engine you've got. There's no difference in terms of what equipment you've got here in this championship. It's quite simply put here, John, are you able to extract the most out of it compared to everyone else? It's the purest form of racing.
For sure, and that's what we saw in qualifying, the gaps being so close, indeed in the race as well, with the times being close, even if drivers have a little bit of problems. And that's the thing, when you're playing with sort of minimal margins, you have to maybe just go back and think about, did I get everything out of the equipment? Did we exploit everything to maximum in terms of braking, accelerating? And you'll have to have a rethink of, maybe I need the seat in a different position, maybe I need the wheel in slightly different position to go and get that last tenth of a second. It's the minimal differences like that work on the sim rig, and it'll be interesting to see whether anybody finds something for next race.
Now, the joys of remote commentary here, ladies and gentlemen, is that we are going to try and get ourselves an interview in and play with Ayrton Tanar, who has finished off in third position overall. Ayrton, do we have a copy of you, buddy? Can we hear you? To that extent, I don't think we can. Yeah, so that's going to be a case of a little bit problematic here for us if Ayrton can't hear us. We'll try one more time. Ayrton, do you hear us? I think that answer is going to be a no. I don't think that we can hear at the moment Ayrton. But Ayrton had a good run back into third place. He got a little bit lost in the middle of this, but he always found a way to get himself up into position there, John.
Yeah, I was just thinking back to some motorsports things where I've seen the drivers go, oh, sorry, so sorry, I can't hear you on the audio, where they can, but I'm sure they can't hear us. But it made me chuckle just on the fact that we've seen that strategy before. I think it's an interesting, just to talk about interviews for a bit, it's interesting once you've done all of that racing with the adrenaline wearing off, and then you have to do an interview. You got the microphone shoved in your face, and you're like, I'm trying to remember what happened during all of those races, and it's always blurred into one. And it'll be interesting to see when we get the drivers what they have to say, because sometimes you get a different impression of the race when you're driving it versus when you watch it back. So maybe some drivers have an insight as to what went wrong, what they can improve. It would be very interesting to see whether we can ask them those questions in a little bit.
Well, we certainly hope we can out there, and we hope that opportunity does become available to us here. But it has been some truly wonderful action that we've been able to put together here and say, look, this is what karting's all about. And actually what you find here is most people who watch this internationally, say, for example, because you've got the joys of doing that here on YouTube, won't have an understanding of what Reve is as a circuit and what it brings. So we'll get a chance to go for this. We'll try one last time. Ayrton, do you hear us, buddy? Oh, this is going to be a real shame if we're not going to get the chance. Ayrton? I think that stare tells me everything I need to know. The answer's going to be no, I don't think we can. So that's going to be a real shame in terms of where we're looking at, John. But really, I think this has been one of these events that you turn around and go, okay, Reve is now on the map.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a track that a lot of the drivers and indeed us in the commentary box were going to remember it for the just sheer action that we got from that one. I think the track is perfectly laid out, to be fair, to set up an overtake into that turn 1, turn 2 complex. And yeah, there's definitely a track that if I get the opportunity to go to it, I'm going to do a few laps on it, that's for sure. Maybe, perhaps, if we can take an opportunity to review the top 3 drivers as well, just in terms of us from the commentary box. I think for Ayrton Senna's perspective, it was a bit of a frustrating time for him out there because he had the pace to compete with the top 2. It's just every single race he got caught up in an incident, not necessarily his fault, obviously, but yeah, it's unfortunately didn't demonstrate or have the opportunity, to demonstrate that total pace.
Yeah, and so that, we would say, is a shame. And as far as that goes now, we set our sights firmly on South Garda for the second round of your Maltese National Sim Racing Championships for 2026. And so crucial it has been that Gaming Malta is supporting this event as part of its commitment for Malta's grassroots esports community, with World Pro Racing running the Maltese National Sim Racing Championships every year since 2020. And this broadcast is broadcasted live each season. And this year it's €15,000, the prize pool of it. It's the biggest championships that have yet been offered as far as they go. John, how are you thinking that South Garda is going to play out now, in the sense that they now understand, okay, we've had a tight old battle, now we're going to have it open, more expansive. Do you think it's going to be more freeing for some of the drivers?
I think, honestly, we'll see a repeat of race 3. There's a lot of drivers on the same pace, and with a track like that, which is more open and flowing, I think we'll see at least 4 drivers competing for victory. So it's going to be one that I watch with great intent.
Right, let's try this one final time, shall we? Hopefully we can get this all working. If not, it's going to be a real shame. Ayrton, do you hear us, buddy? No, I don't think he does. And so I think we're going to have to call that one a wash. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to go and get an interview here at this point with Ayrton Senna, who ended up in 3rd position there in that final race. So I think our eyes are now going to have to set over to September and the next run of running, as we will be keeping our focus on as we all set. We will get note that we will get our interviews done afterwards in post-production, so we will set that all into play and make sure that that's all done and dusted for everyone to go and have that opportunity to have a set. From John Harris and myself, Jake Sperry, we've had a busy start to the karting season here with the Maltese National Sim Racing Championships. While it was a case of what could Kian Gorchi do in race 1, it turned around to Mr. Pace Merchant himself. Zach Skikluna has got himself a wonderful margin to say. He walks with confidence to South Garda, and he says Reve in his hometown is his playground.
from our first breath, Enemed powers life's journey. Every step of the way. Supporting you through life's milestones. Fueling businesses that drive our economy and providing the energy that brings families together. We're there when you set sail on your new adventure. And when the plane takes off to connect you to the world. Our commitment to quality and innovation ensures we meet the needs of today, tomorrow, and beyond. Life is a journey, and Enemed is proud to power yours. Wherever life takes you, we will be there.